to support this imperialistic, white nationalist country. Yes, that's what I said, imperialistic white nationalist country. So black men, white women, it's not a condemnation of anybody. It's an evaluation, a critical analysis of the method to continue the institution of mental slavery, which also continues the institution of white nationalism. And of course, the chattel slavery was replaced by mental slavery. And there are numerous methods that have been used before and after we're coming up on this 250th anniversary of the so-called independence of America. So the race question has played a fundamental and huge part in creating great wealth and domination of the European race, the white European race. The ongoing psychological warfare against people of melanated or darker hue continues to this day. So our choices can be somewhat not conscious but subconscious because of the conditioning we, those people of darker hue, have experienced throughout our lives. So, for instance, what is the standard of beauty? Even in nursery rhymes, the fairy tales, the ugly black duckling turns into what? The beautiful white swan. Yeah. Then let's look at the hair question. A lot of times black folks call, when you have straight hair, good hair. Oh my goodness. But I did this, I wrote this song, and this song is celebrating natural hair. So this is my counter, or my suggestion for. I'm so happy because my hair is nappy.
I'm so happy because my hair is nappy.
I'm so happy because my hair is nappy.
I'm so happy that my hair is nappy.
I'm so happy because my hair is nappy.
I'm so happy that my hair is nappy.
I'm so happy because my hair is nappy.
I'm so happy that my hair is nappy.
Hip hop hooray, nappy every day.
Hip hop hooray, nappy every day.
No more fried, dyed, laid to the side. No more fried, dyed, laid to the side. Hip hop hooray, nappy every day.
Hip hop hooray, nappy every day.
Hip hop hooray, nappy every day.
Hip hop hooray, happy every day.
Twinkle Brothers say, since I throw the comb away, since I throw the comb away. That was by the Twinkle Brothers. That was us, the Mau Mau Rising. But the Twinkle Brothers said, since I throw the comb away. So that's in, those lyrics, fried, dyed, and laid to the side. That's what people say. Your hair is fried, dyed, and laid to the side. In other words, it's not natural. It's and that's, white folks, I'm giving you a little insight what's going on in the black community. And a lot of it's self-hatred. That's what it is, self-hatred. But basically it was to, not love yourself, to make you think that the white race is superior and that you are inferior, which Abraham Lincoln said when he did the Emancipation Proclamation. People think he was this and that. No, he just wanted the state, the Union, to be intact. So what he said was, look, if I could keep the Union and slavery be intact, that's cool. If I can keep the Union and free the slaves, that's cool. I'm just trying to free the slaves. I'm just trying to keep the Union. And he also said, I have no doubt that the inferior race is the black race, and the superior race is the white race. Okay, so that sets us up to the white nationalist mentality, which is played out then and is playing out today in these wars. It's playing out today because if you look at Hitler, the Holocaust, right now we're having this war. They're calling the Palestinians, those animals, the others, they're the darker hued people. They're not us. They're not like us. So we can kill them. We can commit genocide against them like they did in the United States when they founded this nation. But here's the thing. Israel is a white nationalist country. They discriminate against those of darker hue. Matter of fact, let's go back to Hitler. Hitler said he wanted a pure Aryan race. Now, some of those Jews were not pure Aryan. So there's two reasons why Hitler wanted to annihilate the Jews. Number one, they did not fit into the mold of the pure Aryan race. Number two, they had economic power. They had power. So what they did, they made a deal. They being the Germans, Hitler and them, the Third Reich. It's in this book, The Transfer Agreement. The book is called The Transfer Agreement, the untold story of the secret pact between the Third Reich and Jewish Palestine. So what happened was the Jewish leadership, the Zionist Jewish leadership, sold out the Jews who were being marched into those concentration camps because they wanted the state of Palestine. They said, look, we want the state of Palestine, and we'll do it by any means necessary. So they made a deal with the Third Reich. Look, we'll give you your state, but look, the Jewish leadership said, we know what you're doing, you're killing Jews, but we'll ignore that. We won't talk about it. We'll be quiet if you transfer our assets so we can create this state of Israel. So they had an agreement between they being the Zionist Jews and Germany, the Third Reich. It's called The Transfer Agreement, a book by Edwin Black. He talks about that. So race has been a big part, and it's going on. Elon Musk is, saying we need to whiten up the world because we're getting outnumbered. But anyway, let's go to this interview with Dr. Francis Cress Welsing and on the Tony Brown Journal. There are two folks there that he's interviewing. One is, I said, Dr. Francis Cress Welsing, and the other is Dr. Alvin Fassand. So let's hear this, and then we'll come back with our guest. We'll open up the phones, 818-985-5735. Hit option 1, and we're going to roll. Okay, here it is.
To begin this second part of what was a very exciting first part, I'd like to throw the question out. What has the increase in relationships between black men and white women done to the relationship between black men and white women, in black men and black women?
Black women. Well, I think first we should say that there's interracial marriages that take place between black women and white men too, and that's a whole area because it seems that black men always get the focus of the interest and the attack, which is interesting because I think the society, white supremacy, has been concerned mostly with the black man, white woman. So I think that's the reverse of that. The white man, the black woman, also is a subject. There's no question, it seems to me, that black women, from what I can see, all over, are very, very upset and threatened by the growing relationships between black men and white women, and that they oppose it. Now, from the black man's standpoint, I hear a lot of brothers say over and over again that first it was the white man who told them they couldn't go out with white women. Now it's mainly the black woman who's telling them that they can't go out with white women, so that they still feel oppressed. Now, for whatever that's worth, I think that's an important point psychologically for the black man, because is the black woman in this, is she more concerned with her control over black men, see, or is she concerned with white supremacy and interracial relationships in general? Because if black women are concerned in general, then they should attack just as much, I think, the white man, black woman combination.
But hasn't the black woman, to some extent, because the statistics have reversed. The statistics for black women, white men has decreased by the same percentage that the statistics for black men, white women has increased.
Yeah.
So obviously the black woman,
Has more cause for concern at this point.
well, maybe
perhaps.
she has more awareness, more consciousness, more cause for concern. Maybe her concern is not due to the fact she's threatened. Maybe her concern is due to the fact that she's just politically more sophisticated and more conscious of what black people ultimately may have to do, and that is unify themselves.
Well,
Let me
yeah, go ahead,
just
Francis.
add this, that I think that the black woman's concern is related to, let's say, perhaps her survival as a woman or her functioning as a woman. That, and hopefully, I hope it's beyond that, the change in the statistics. But I think that, let us say, black men after the age of 15 are decreased in the population relative to the number of black women. Where are they? They're in Vietnam, they're in prisons, and they're dying from various causes at earlier ages than white men comparably. So that, let's say, there are a number of women, black women, who are going without adequate spouses or male partners to relate to. So probably, instinctively, black women are concerned about that. Historically, white men have not been interested in black or other non-white women, be they Japanese, Chinese, Indian, or whatever. They have been interested in sexually exploiting black women, but not really taking them to the altar, let's say, to marry them or to really fully respect them. So perhaps black women are responding to that. But I think that what is key is really what is happening to blacks, because I see the thrust of white women sexually aggressing against the black man, or from the other side, the thrust of the white man sexually aggressing against the black woman, that this produces a division between black men and black women that is going to contribute significantly to, if you want to call it, genocide of black people. In other words, if you heighten the alienation between black men
It's going to make
and
it
black women,
harder to organize.
right, it will, in other words, we talk about unity at a political organization level as being one kind of unity, but there is another kind of unity that is much more fundamental, and that is the unity within the family unit itself. And we have been denied the opportunity to really have functioning family units since the, you know, the really onset of white
Let's talk
supremacy.
about the, let me ask one question. Let's talk about the contemporary family unit of a interracial couple in today's American society. We're in the black community, we have to admit that the black community is much more nationalistic, or very nationalistic, and that the black community is not receptive as it once was to interracial groups. The white community, I would say, has moved to the right to a very, very great
You
extent.
mean seemingly to the left? Do you mean to be more receptive to?
No, more reactionary to
It's more
interracial
reactionary.
couples.
No,
I'm talking
disagree.
about the middle America. I'm not talking about a few New York sophisticated interracial couples or San Francisco. These, I think, are just islands. Are surrounded by
I would
very
disagree with
cautious
that,
white
Tony. I
communities.
would say that white people have moved to accept black men and white women to a greater degree than has ever been evidenced in
All
this
right, then-
area of the
then-
world.
okay, then
And that
does-
is across the board.
Then does a
Polls
black man...
And I would
that.
say that there's a reason for this. They are being conditioned by the kinds of movies that are being made these days, you know, where you have black men and white women engaging in sex on the screen or other kinds of relationships that the white community, in other words, those people who are responsible for getting the masses of white people to do those things that are necessary to maintain white supremacy, are conditioning them to accept this phenomena. Do you see? Because they understand that the black man really is being psyched out of position. He is being psyched to think, when he asked for black power and liberation, and they said, no, we're not going to give you power, but here we will give you the white woman. And the black man was faked out of position, just like many people are faked out of position. You say black power, I'll give you a $15,000 job. You don't have power, you don't have self-determination, but you have a program or a grant. Do you see what I'm saying? In other words, you ask for this, but I give you this because you really don't know what you want.
Well, then are you saying
Or
that
you
the
don't
children...
really know what constitutes power, or you really don't know what is the dynamic of the system. A lot of people think that the dynamic of the system is money. Money is not the dynamic of the system. White supremacy, or the maintaining of white power throughout the world, when whites are outnumbered 9-1 by non-white people, is the name of the game. Color is the name of the game. But we don't, I say that across the board and around the world, non-white people have not understood the significance of the color dynamic and how white people have taken something that they are very intimately concerned about. I say that the fact that they cannot produce color, that they have decided that they're going to dominate everybody else who has this genetic capacity, who can genetically annihilate them. You see, comes one drop of black blood makes you black. That is a statement of the genetic dominance of the capacity to produce color over the inability to produce color.
And occasionally you'll find, I guess Francis has encountered this too, you'll find white women who have a preoccupation and desire to have black babies.
And white men have a desire to create children.
Well, let's
of
talk
color.
about the first. Let's talk about the obsession, if I may use that word, on the part of a white woman to have a black baby. Now, what would the psychological dynamics be in a case such as that?
Well, I think, you know, it's hard to tell without really just picking an individual case.
I
but it
can
may.
tell you.
Go ahead, Francis.
Well, can you? Have you ever had a case?
I don't,
Yes,
yes,
I
I've
know
had,
black
I've
psychiatrists who say
I've
that
had
white women don't say
patients
this to
who've
white
wanted to have
therapists.
black babies.
But white women will say this to a black psychotherapist. I want to have a black baby.
Why? Why
I
do
say
they say
why? Because white people, if we look at the skin color white, white is the genetic inability to produce color. It is a genetic deficiency state. It is a form of albinism. It has never been discussed in this way, but genetically, biologically, this is what it is. White people they don't have the capacity to produce color. They wish they could. This is why they spend a lot of time sun tanning, makeup, all of that is trying to give color to colorless skins. Okay. Now, because they have this deep psychological need, they are the only people in the world, they are the minority in the world who cannot produce color. And so they can't produce it, they can't make it on their own. They try to suntan, and then at the sexual level, they have attractions to people who can give them the illusion that they have participated in the production of color. So the white man has gone all over the entire world, having sexual relations with every group of non-white women that he meets. The white woman, when she has been allowed to, sexually aggressive towards men of color.
She is allowed to.
And so then she gives vent verbally to that fantasy. I want to have a product of color because this is the one thing that I can't
Francis,
do.
how much is color the issue? I think that
You can't move
No, I know
without
that. Okay, but what I'm trying to do is bring in other elements. That is, there's also, I've seen in some of these women a desire sort of to play a model role or a really superhumanistic one. That is, they want the world to be colorblind, so they want to get involved in producing black children and raising them.
If they want the world to be colorblind, what is the focus on color all about? If the world is colorblind, what is the point of talking about having a black baby?
This is some of their rationale. What I'm saying, I think that some of it is political in their minds. That is the time that the civil rights movement was talking about black and white together. And that was a political position that people almost felt forced to have interracial relationships. And that was considered to be in the forefront of the whole thing.
Well, may I ask the question?
Both blacks and whites.
May I ask the
they
question?
They were both involved.
You did quite a number of investigative studies. I remember reading one in Jet magazine on the interracial relationships in the South during the civil rights movement.
That's
Is that correct?
Yeah.
Now, wasn't there, or was there, or is there a phenomenon of black leaders and white women?
Well, I don't know if it's a phenomenon. Let me say that I would say a lot of the black leaders and the rank and file were involved with white women. There were also a lot of white men involved with black women, but I think the main group, that is the largest group involved, were black men with white women. And that this created a lot of problems. And I think it had a lot to do with the development of the black consciousness movement.
Well, didn't it have a lot to
What
do?
did it have to do with it? Wait a minute. See, there are people, for example, who are looking at the thing that has cut significantly into the quest for black power that went on in the 60s has been the unleashing of white women and saying that now you go out and have relationships with a black man to cool him out.
Yeah, it had
in
political
terms of,
significance.
all right.
No question about it.
Let's say, for example, the white woman, if you talk to women who are the furthest left, white women, who are in the women's liberation movement, peace movement, or any anti-war movement, if you say, look, what about eliminating white supremacy as a system? They have no use for that. They have no use even for the black man outside of the context.
Say they will, but I don't know
Wait
how
a
much
minute.
they do.
It has been my experience. Maybe yours is different. It has been my experience that white women will talk about in the war in Vietnam. When you say, well, that's a war to maintain white supremacy, then they don't want to have any trouble with looking at it in that way. When you say, well, look, the way that we have analyzed the problem is it's not a question of who has the money. It's a question of an established system to maintain white power, and that this is what is raising havoc all over the world. For the vast majority of people. Do you want to eliminate that? No, because the white woman understands that the black man is not even going to feel towards her as he does unless there's white supremacy, and unless he feels in his powerless position that he is gaining power by making an alliance, be it marital, sexual, or whatever kind of alliance with the white woman.
I think that they feel that maybe unconsciously. There was no question in my mind that with a lot of the white female workers in the movement, even though they were involved with black men and sometimes married to them, that a lot of them had a lot of racist ideas and feelings. That is, frequently the attention of the black men made them feel very special.
Right, like you called it the African queen, or the white African queen.
Yeah, the white African queen. Heightened their sense of feeling special.
You mean attention they couldn't normally get from a white man?
That's
Look at this.
And then the old thing about white women frequently who were unattractive, who came into the black community because the black men would adore them, because they were white, but the black men thought she was beautiful.
That's right.
And that's still operating frequently, sometimes in subtle ways, so that you can sometimes get, I'm not saying this is true of all white women or anyone, but this is an example. You can get a very pretty white woman sometimes who internally thinks she's no good.
Why? Because
for a lot of
she
reasons,
has been devalued
who might
by
get
the white
attracted
man.
to black men.
See, white
So
women are asking for
runs
liberation.
deep sometimes.
They're asking for self-respect from their own men. Okay, because a white man not only had to be dominant to all people of color, he also had to dominate his own woman in the process. And so white women are saying, we want to be liberated, or we want to make ourselves equal to you. You see, I think that is a major dialogue that is going on. The white woman is saying she wants to be...
Don't some of them want to rid themselves of the racism? Isn't this important?
No, see, no, that's
when
like...
they're raising their children? I mean,
no, they don't want to rid themselves of privilege.
Which
you see, and this is why there was a study done recently where white women are still teaching 3-year-old, 2-year-old white children that it's no good to be black, and that black people are niggers and this and that and the other.
But what about the white parent of a black child? I mean, that white parent would have a vested interest in at least trying to deal with their racism so that they will raise their children unscarred.
You would think that.
Now, all of us know, people from interracial homes. I mean, they're not all, brainwashed into being white.
No, they can't be brainwashed into being white because they're all non-white. All of them have marks of being non-white products. Either their hair is curled, their lips are broad, their nose are broad, or their skin is dark. Black genetic material is always going to leave its mark. And the children are always non-white. And the children that I have seen, many of these children have more hang-ups about not being white, you see, than black children who may be the same hue. You see, because they are caught in that dynamic of a parent on the one side, a white parent who still has not given up their desire to be dominant as a white person, and the black parent, be they male or female, who when they went into that alliance, hoping that they would somehow be in the position of an acceptable one now after they had devalued themselves. So that the child is in...
I don't know if...
Well, she's
saying, what I'm saying
just for purposes of conversation.
Yeah.
I mean, nobody can say all of anything.
I know, but it's important that if we're talking about it, it makes it seem as if these are...
Well, let's look at it this way.
Dynamics.
Non-white children who have had white parents, all of us, everybody in this little circle, has had some white intertappings into their genetic stock. Okay. Do you see what I'm saying? Now, in the vast majority of non-white people in this area of the world have had white intertappings, so that it really is not significantly different than what happens actually in the white home itself. The dynamic is still the same. So that you have light-skinned, dark people feeling devalued because they have color. Whether it occurs in some illegal alliance of a white man having something to do with a black woman on 14th Street in Washington, D.C., or in Mississippi somewhere, or in Harlem, New York, or Fifth Avenue, or wherever.
There's a black parent involved, too.
But what I'm saying is that, we cannot take any of this out from what is happening at a global level. See, one thing that has happened in psychiatry, that we have been tied up with somebody by the name of Sigmund Freud, who I'm sure made some very significant contributions in terms of looking at human behavior, some significant contributions, but he got tied up in talking about behavior comes from within the individual, and only indirectly from what is happening outside of the individual. So he called it the sexual instinct, okay? But there are other people, fortunately, now who are coming along.
While we
And
have
who
time.
are- okay.
Yeah, but we're not,
While we have time.
you know, we're not completely controlled, you know, by the externals. And I would like to think that we have some power over determining and understanding
have power
the
over what we don't
processes
understand.
that affect us.
While we have time.
But I don't consider
Yeah.
myself a complete sort of a robot who's affected by racism and don't understand it. And I think a lot of people like that, both some whites, but not a lot of them, and a lot of black people can understand or feel what's going on. And I think that's why you get some black men who are very aware about a lot of racial things in their blackness, who may get involved in those situations, particularly in the past. And you have some who are on the opposite extreme. But it's not like we're all...
Yes, all right.
Yeah, go ahead.
We would never resolve that very deep psychiatric problem. But I would like to, at least while we have a few minutes, discuss one very important point. And that is the significant phenomenon, and Dr. Poussin, I'm sure you will agree with us in an overgeneralized way this time, the significant phenomenon of well-known, I will not make well-known synonymous with prominent, black women who, particularly professional entertainers, who consistently marry white men in large numbers and one white man after the other. Now, I would like to know from either or both of you how you view this dynamic.
I say that they're not marrying the men. The white men are marrying them. Okay? And I think that is
Well, but if they continually are selective.
Well, let's put it this way. Number one, that as I said earlier, that there is an extreme alienation going on between the black man and the black woman. In other words, this same conversation really could be discussing the alienation between the black man and black woman that allows for the significant phenomena of black man, white woman that we see. All right. Because there is that alienation, then black women and black men all across the economic board, no matter whether they're on welfare, whether they're making, you know, $150,000 a year probably as an entertainer, are having problems in terms of their relationships with each other. Now, some women who, you know, they may be in the limelight, or they may be considered beautiful or star or something like that, all right, they have been frustrated in many of their relationships. If you take all of those entertainers, if they start telling you that they started out relating to black men, and they had a number of kinds of problems, and so now, well, I don't want to say you didn't. No, you didn't fail us.
Okay,
you didn't fail us. The white supremacy system is just beating
now,
all
black
of
men
us.
will say that too about black women. That black women have let them down. and
Right.
messed
Well, you
over
see what
them,
I'm saying?
and
It's
they
just
go.
like the Julia syndrome. You know, Diane Carroll and the Julia. Black women have been programmed via TV and everything else. You don't need a black man. You just need a white man to give you a job. At the same time, they're saying to the black man, you don't want a sapphire. She's too argumentative. She talks too much. You see what I'm saying? What you need is a white woman. Now, what does this produce? This produces maintenance of white supremacy. Why? Because you have divided and conquered the black man from the black woman, just like you divide and conquer non-white people.
I have to
all
make
over
this
the
point,
world.
if that's true. But I still must return to the fact, and I don't think we can lose this statistic, that there is a decline on the part of black women in general in interracial relationships, but there continues to be a significant increase among black women and white men when the black woman is a prominent entertainer.
Yeah, Tony.
Oh, okay.
See, this
because
I'm
look,
isolating, and we must address ourselves
okay,
to
well,
that.
look
I'm
what
isolating
happens.
that group of black women.
Part of this, I've talked to people about this in show business. One of the explanations they give, you can take it or leave it, is that in the entertainment field, where these women are most of the time, that there are very few prominent black men who have power. Black men aren't the producers, they aren't directors, they aren't the people putting up the money, they aren't the stage managers, that all of these people in that industry, the strong, dominant, powerful men are white.
Are you saying that the black woman, in order to be successful in that field, must marry one of those white men?
No, I think that that's part of the phenomenon.
But many black women in the entertainment field do not marry white men, and they are still successful.
Yeah.
So wouldn't that not
But I'm saying
contradict
they're
that
coming in constant contact with these types of white
And
men in the
there's not
business
a
who
lot of-
have
let's say,
power.
look at it this way.
And starlets frequently marry men with power.
Okay, and
White
not only
actresses
that,
do
they-
this, white entertainers.
They're
But I
not
must
a
now
lot of
return to
black
your
men.
theme. Wouldn't the variable then be the individual?
No, look, there are not a lot of black men who are earning that same salary, okay?
Into that
and
thing.
because even at the lower level, black men and black women have problems because the white supremacy society has said it'll be easier for a black woman to make a particular salary. Black women can get a job easier than a black man any day. And that
not
has
true,
caused... Huh?
I don't think that's true.
Well,
anymore.
just
At least
ask in the
these
community.
statistics. Okay,
Ask
go
in the
ahead.
community, because a black woman could be a domestic worker when her husband couldn't even work.
Yeah, but I think it's shifting. That's
Well,
all
it
I'm
may
saying.
be
Go ahead.
gradually shifting. I don't know about that looking at the current unemployment statistics, okay? But I'm saying that that has been a sore point within the black family unit a long, long time, and that's why somebody like Monahan can come out and talk about matriarchal family structure. Why? Because the white supremacy society said, well, we'll let her make more money because it's really important to keep him down. All right, so this is what they did. Now, when you get to the level where the stars are, and the income,
Why the fear?
well, wait a minute, in the incomes that they're making, that number one, you have many black men who are not making comparable salaries. And when they are making comparable salaries, because of the dynamic that goes along with that salary, then he wants a white woman. So who's available for her? Because we have one black behavioral scientist who says when a black man is poor, he wants a job. When he gets a job, he wants luxuries. And when he gets luxuries, he wants a white woman.
All right, let me
now,
ask-
that is the dynamic that is produced.
All right, let me ask
But
one-
you see what I'm
well,
saying? It's
one-
not
okay,
castigating
okay,
the
okay,
black
okay,
man. It's
okay.
saying this is what the white supremacy society is programming.
All right, but consistently,
And we have got to keep that
consistently,
in
Dr.
mind.
Wilson,
and
you
stop holding
have made
ourselves
the point and a very strong premise that the black man is the real fear of a political system based on white supremacy.
Oh, yes.
Why, I'll ask.
Well, I
why
say-
the black man? Why is this system so afraid of the black man?
You know what
If
black
that fear
power
is the
means?
reason for interracial
You know what
relationships.
black power means?
means
Black
black
power
power.
means genetic power. The black man can annihilate the white man, you know, with his phallus. The white man has to build a missile to annihilate people of color. By that I mean this, that I think that the fundamental thing that is frightening white men and has frightened them since they were created as genetic mutations is that their appearance can be annihilated by the black man, especially the man who can create the most color, which is the black man in the whole human family. And that is the individual who has to be made inferior and who has to be controlled and has to be destroyed. At the fundamental level of genetics, then we can look at the next level in terms of numbers. That non-white people, if they outnumber white people 9-1 in the world, then the white man all over the world has got to say, now we have got to keep these people down. And you keep a people down by controlling their men. Women, that's why they
I
can
think
let...
that's true.
Succinctly,
That was
Dr.
the
you see, and I think that this is where...
I think that's true, that all of the policies that they had in repression of blacks directed toward the black man's access to the white woman, because then that way he could destroy white people eventually by making all people of color. Whereas the white man, his access to the black woman produced children of color, but they were black children.
No, the white woman is that all of the children of black and white are non-white.
Yeah,
Whether it's a male white or the female white, the children
whatever.
are all,
the children are all brown. But
okay.
That's why they wanted to protect the white woman against the black man.
Not to
Because if the-
protect her, to control the sexual activity
That's right.
of the black
That's-
man. You see what I'm
that's
saying?
right,
Not to
in
protect,
relationship
but
to the white woman.
That's important. In other words, the genetic material of non-white men in the world has to be controlled if we don't want the disappearance of white people. And white people, even though they don't like the fact of skin whiteness, proof their quest for suntan, okay? Even though they have psyched themselves into the position that white is beautiful, although they don't really believe
I
it,
think that-
then they don't want white appearance to be annihilated because now you have a worldwide system that's 500 years old of white domination
and it's
and white
easier
privilege.
to control black people.
Thank you. Thank you very much for a very, very interesting interview.
Okay, that was the second half of the interview by Tony Brown with Dr. Francis Cress Welsing and Dr. Alvin Fassand. 818-985-5735. You can hit option 1 to call in. You know, Francis was on Phil Donahue, and I was so amazed why the white people said she was racist, but she's not being racist. She's just running down some questions. She did say something in an interview that I thought was interesting. She said that the Vietnam War was to maintain white so-called supremacy. I would argue that the Ukraine war today is to maintain white so-called supremacy. He said, well, but the Russians are white. Yeah, they are, but they are those other whites, like the Irish, the Italian had to work themselves into whiteness. The Russians haven't done that yet. So I would maintain that also. Now, I mentioned last week that the program on Netflix called Colin and Back, Black and White is a really good example of what's going on. I want to bring in Makunga Akinyela, who was here last week. He's a psychiatrist. Who are you, Makunga? Talk to us. Oh, you're muted. Okay, I don't hear him. He is muted.
How's that doing? How you doing, brother?
That is clear as a bell. So just tell us who you are. I'm going to play a clip by Malcolm X. And we want to continue this conversation.
Okay.
What did you think as you heard that, though?
Well, first of all, I'm a therapist, as you said, in practice here in uh, in the southern portion of the American Empire in Georgia. Even though I'm right there from where you are, California, I work around cultural democracy and decolonizing mental health. You can find that in my book, Testimony Therapy, Decolonizing Mental Health for Black Therapists and Clients. But yeah, that again, it's the conversation itself is interesting. I want to remind people, I think something I said last time is even though this is an important conversation, we shouldn't get hung up in that conversation as most central because the reality is that only between 5 to 8% of Black people are engaging in relationships, significant relationships with people who are not Black. All right. So that's important to hold on to because sometimes we raise conversations like this to the level of crises,
Well,
right?
and I think that's very important because as I put this program together, my intention was to show the methods that they use to maintain
Okay.
white supremacy. Malcolm X talks about that. So this is just one aspect of it. Let's hear Malcolm X and what he says about this.
It's just like when you got some coffee that's too black, which means it's too strong. What you do, you integrate it with cream. You make it weak. If you pour too much cream in, you won't even know you ever had coffee. It used to be hot, it becomes cool. It used to be strong, it becomes weak.
So that's Malcolm talking about his little analogy of black coffee being made weak as it's integrated. So there's aspects to this. And one is just to annihilate all those people of the darker hue or to integrate them to make them weak. As you see, Elon Musk is the first one I said is just let's bring in more white people because as Francis says, there's the fear of genetic annihilation. Whatever means necessary to maintain imperialism and white supremacy. Go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, I agree with that last portion that you said. And I think both Francis Welsing and Alvin Toussaint have made some great contributions to us understanding the psychology of oppression, the psychology of what happens to Black people. And I think that a big part of the psychology of oppression and white supremacy is creating this idea that white people, so that Europeans, so-called white people, are superior to us Africans on every level. And again, I was we were sitting here listening with my wife, and she says that she finds herself agreeing with Frances Cress Welsing even more than she thought she would from say the older days. I would say that I definitely agree with I think what Dr. Welsing is promoting strongly, and if you compare that dialogue with her and Alvin Toussaint, the importance of Black people's self-determination, and that becomes the important thing. I think it's also important for us to talk about some of the limitations of both of their arguments or all of their arguments. And I would argue that the limitation is they're stuck in the European idea, first of all, of racialism itself, right? And so they're discussing this only in the context of race. And to the point that Dr. Welsing, in many ways, poo-poos or denies the significance of capitalist and imperialist exploitation on our people and reduces it simply to white people being feeling inferior or jealous because of our skin tone. That's at the basis of Eurocentric racialism, right? This idea that the most important thing is our skin color and that their skin color is superior, right? But ultimately, even that white supremacy is driven by capitalist colonialism. And so ultimately, it's about real political, cultural, economic power for white people. And they've developed and created this philosophy. And I think that we as colonized people, Africans, have to resist getting drawn into their philosophical worldview. I agree that it is important that we black people, we Africans, have self-determination, and that includes, as Malcolm said, by any means necessary and on all levels. Cultural self-determination, economic self-determination, political self-determination. I believe that that lack of power on all levels is what contributes to mental health problems for our people ultimately. And the only way we're going to be a free, powerful, and sane people is when we have total control over every aspect of our lives, which includes our relationships, right? Because white power doesn't even allow us to have healthy relationships with each other. So I agree with that part of what Dr. Welsing is saying. I think ultimately capitalist colonialism, white supremacy, denies us the right and the ability to have healthy, loving relationships with other African people. And so, yes, it is a win when we, for those various reasons, choose to have relationships with other people that we can't have with our own people, if that makes any sense.
It makes a lot of sense. If you want to join the conversation, you can call us at 818-985-5735, hit option 1. Makunga, I think you're reading my notes. If I have on my notes, does power or lack thereof contribute to the mental challenge that your clients, black clients? So don't be reading my notes, man.
Great minds stick alike, brother.
I appreciate that. So I agree with you, but one thing I would just say is they are focusing on that because that's their focus. Like right now, you have doctors who are specialists. They only deal with one thing. I don't think she's denying the capitalist and imperialistic nature of the state because she mentioned Vietnam, but the fundamental thing is it has to be white.
Yeah, I think
That's
she
what you
makes
say in
it
Israel.
secondary and her emphasis on genetic difference. The truth is that there's only, that 99.9% similarity between all humans genetically, right?
Okay.
And her theory of the crest theory is that somehow that white people are genetically deformed and they resent
No,
that.
she did not say deformed. She said, don't put words in her mouth. She's saying that genetically, black, black, all colors come from black. That's what she's saying.
Uh-huh. Hmm.
Therefore, two white people could not make a black baby. So what she's talking about is genetic annihilation, which is what we talked about in the beginning of the program,
Hmm.
what what Hitler and the Jewish Reich were afraid of.
Hmm.
They were afraid of genetic annihilation with the KKK. We have to. As a matter of fact, last week we talked about how people in South America said, "Lighten up our race."
And
But
I can appreciate that difference. Again, what I would argue about is the lack of emphasis that ultimately this is about economic, political, and social power.
exactly. But
You're
that economic and social power
mhm,
is being maintained by this
through a philosophy,
so-called race, and race
through a,
was a construct, like you said.
through a philosophy, not because there's some real human difference in people in that manner,
Mhm.
right? Between either Africans or Europeans. That's what I would argue.
Okay, we have a caller on the line, but maybe before we go to our caller, Rodney. One of our engineers here you're from Canada. Can you open up his mic? Oh, you can't open up his mic? Oh, he's on the phone. Okay, we'll wait till he gets off the phone and,
Mhm.
and come in. Well, let's just go ahead and take the first caller. Morris is on line 1. He's, okay, that's all the notes I have. All right, Morris, welcome to Cut to the Chase.
Mm.
Okay. We can't get him because he's still talking to Morris. Okay, I thought line 2 was open. All right, let's continue then. So talk about your practice, Makungu. You
Mhm.
mentioned that, which is very important, power and the lack of power.
Mhm.
So what do you see? I know it's confidential, but we have no names here. what do you see as one of the main aspects of the mental challenges that your clients have,
Mhm.
and how does it deal with connect to race?
I think the main challenge, as I said, is white supremacist colonialism, which functions by what Frantz Fanon calls inferiorizing the colonized people. Not that we are in fact inferior, but it creates limitations in our lives, right? So that ultimately we began to see the world only in its limits. So we believe that we are inferior. My grandmama used to make a joke. She say the white man's ice is always colder. And we all know black people who think like that, right? You talk about getting a white doctor. They say that's better than getting a black doctor. Going to a lawyer. Well, I make sure it's a white lawyer. Don't get one of them black lawyers. You talk about dealing with black business people and within the community. Oh, I don't deal with them black businesses, right? That's over centuries of inferiorization, setting limits, real political, cultural, economic limits within the black community, and then convincing black people through an education system, for instance, right? As Carter G. Woodson talks about, that those limitations are the result of our own inferiority, not in the oppressive conditions that have been applied to our people, right? It also, again, using that philosophy of racialism that comes out as colorism amongst our own people makes it difficult for us to even have, as I said, healthy what in philosophy is called I thou relationship. That's a healthy relationship. I see you, you see me, right? Frantz Fanon pointed out that the relationship of the colonized is never an I thou relationship. There's always that third person in the middle of the relationship. So even when we talk about each other, we say something like, "Hey, you know that sister? She kind of dark, but she pretty." What are we saying? We're always comparing her to a white woman, right? Or we say, "You know that brother? He kind of stupid for a light-skinned dude."
Mm, mm.
Right. And again, the white man is always in the middle of how we relate to each other. When we complain, our complaints are always racialized around this question of gender relationships, right? This is, again, where I would agree with Dr. Welsing on these things. Anytime we have problems with women as men, we racialize that problem. Man, I can't stand, not women, I can't stand black women. In my book, I give the case of a woman um, who comes into my office and says, "I hate black men." Right? And she begins to recount problems that she's had with men throughout her life. But what she defines that is the problem is in their blackness, right? As opposed to that she has problems with men, which the reality is grounded in patriarchy, sexism, right? The privileges that men have and are taught that they should have in this society, but she racializes the problems. We black men do the same thing, right? We have one bad relationship with a sister, and we say, "Oh, them black women, I can't stand them. That's why I'm gonna go get me a white girl, right? Or I'm gonna go get me a Indian or something like that because they know how to treat a man." We racialize all of our problems and understandings, not because race is real, but because white supremacy has taught us that our own racial state is inferior to their supposed superior racial state. Those are the problems of colonialism, but ultimately it's not for because they like or dislike black skin, right? Dr. Welsing them talked about, the desire of white people to have sex to be with black people or whatnot. It's not that. That's why a racist can be married to a black person and still be a racist.
Mm.
Ultimately, it's about the power that they see for their collective, the European collective, that's grounded in colonialism and capitalism. And we can never not center the question of colonial capitalism in these discussions as at the heart of the problem. Because if they didn't have economic and political and social power, they wouldn't have no power.
I agree with you, 100%. That's, and I would call it the psychological warfare that's
Hmm.
been going against us forever. I want to bring on 818-985-5735. Hit option 1 Could you answer the phones if I want to put Rodney on? Yeah. So Rodney,
How you doing?
I'm good. Yeah. Bring him up just a little bit. He's a little low. Hey, Rodney. Rodney works with me here. You're from Canada. Were you born in Canada, Rodney?
No, no, but I grew up in Canada
Okay, you grew up in Canada.
all my life.
So yeah, okay, we had great conversations. So do you want to share with that, or do you want me to ask
But
you?
yeah, you could ask me because
Yeah, because we were talking, and even before I thought about doing this program, he was saying, deal with mostly white women, and I said, oh, okay,
we
interesting.
call it snow bunny. I guess people were doing the slang. So
So the question was, so when I brought this program up, Rodney, he got a little defensive, but then he understood what I was doing. But there's reasons. But Rodney, we talked about it. He said, well, love is love. But then he realized what you just said, Makunga. He said, well, the light, dark skin. Well, I don't want to deal with no dark skin. Is that true, Rodney?
uh, now I understand.
You understand?
Understand.
Okay, all
So
right, okay.
I want to deal with my sister. I want to deal with everybody who I'm in love. But most likely, when I grew up, my father also had a snow bunny. I have extended white family, white brother, white sister, and now I realize that my sister adopt a mixed child. So this is Canada leans on interracial, and because we from the British colony and we didn't have the Mann Act from 1910 to let you know.
So basically, it's like what I discovered from my Afro Latino people. They say, marry light because then it's better for some reason. Is that correct? Is that what you're saying to me?
I like I told you, yes, when I grew up and I said, wow, it's better to have marry a white so we
Yes,
could have a business. It will be easier. Everything will be easier if we connect with them. But it's because of where you're from. Sometimes it's where you grew up and then you have those ideology and saying,
exactly.
hey, this is good for me. This is good. And now I used to live in Atlanta, and I even see maybe it's another subject. Gay people, black men, gay black men going with white gay. I said, okay, is it they want a privilege or what? Why they go with, you know?
Makunga, you're shaking your head. Do you have something to say?
Absolutely. Um, I've matured over the years. I don't condemn any brother or sister for their sexual choices or their relationship choices. But I think if we listen to this brother, right, ultimately we have to question, people's motivations. And I think questions of power, influence, the need for acceptance, we can't ever not question whether that's there. As we were listening to that interview, for instance, and I just thought of it again. I was reminded of an interview that I heard with Eartha Kitt, who's a sister who, for me, you know, had a tragic love life. Who, in this interview, talks about always how she wanted a relationship with a black man, right? And in the interview, they talked about black actresses and whatnot, and she talked about how she wanted a relationship with a black man. I think someone had asked her, "Why are you always with these black white dudes?" And she told the story of she had a sexual relationship with Harry Belafonte, but he told her that he could never marry her because he had to have a white woman. Why?
Mm,
For
mm.
power. He knew he had to have a white woman for power and to advance in his career. And so ultimately, yes, it's a choice to choose a European, but ultimately we also know that their whiteness represents their relationship to the center of power, to the center of capitalist colonialism.
And we know Harry Belafonte was very radical.
He was he was a brother who was definitely for us.
Always had
Don't
white
judge him.
wives, always that I know of. We got Morris on line one. Morris, what's going on? Have a question for?
Yes, I'm an older man, and I've dated all kinds of women.
Mm.
I happen to be black, but you know what? A lot of all this theory and about power and seeking this with black women or white women or anything. I've had them all, even Indians when I was in India. But have you guys ever thought for just 1 minute that, like, I was considered, and I'm a professional musician, I just always thought outside the box. And I've had black women that thought outside the box with me. We were crazy together. And then it's just what you happen to hook up with. You know, I would never, ever have hooked up with a woman just because of her political power, because she was white or anything, to be specific. But my brother, and we have money. And my brother was with this white girl, and her family told her if she stuck with him, she was rich, but if she stuck with him, that she would lose all her power and the family inheritance and all that. She quit. Not out of love. I just wanted to say sometimes you can have 100 ducks, all different colors, and 2 of them are just, for lack of a better word, crazy or think outside the box.
Interesting
so
point.
Why not look at that? I've never heard one comment in the last 2 days about somebody was attracted to somebody, say they were into science. I found another scientist.
Okay,
You know,
Morris. I think we understand your point. I want Makungu to comment on that because, you know, I can go on a long time.
Brother Morris, I appreciate your testimony. I really do. And I would, and I,
I
again,
don't have a minute, Makungu. I'm sorry. But
I have no judgment on that. I would ask you to ask yourself, what does it mean to think outside of the box? What does that say to you that you're able to say that you're a person who thinks outside the box? Does that mean that you don't want to think around these questions of power, oppression, privilege? And if you choose to date all these different women, it proves to yourself that you're no longer bound by these things. Now, whether you want to be bound by them or not, the reality is you a black man in America. I don't judge who you have sex with. You have every right to do that. I think I would urge you to question yourself what it means to say, I'm a man who thinks outside the box. What does that represent for you? That's all.
a true therapist right there. Oh, my goodness. Makunga Akinyele, thank you so much for joining us. We're out of time. As you can believe that, but I think that ended on a good note. You, like he was on your, I don't know if you lay down on the couch. But
in my room.
In your room, and you laid it out. So, you know, there's political reasons behind everything, y'all. And we're fighting a battle on a lot of fronts. This is just one small front. That's the racism question. There's the economic question. There's the gendered question. There's a lot of fronts we're fighting on, but we're gonna win. This is Cutting the Chase. My name is Sly Rivers. Join us next Friday at 8 a.m. We got a great show planned up right the day before the 4th of July.
All right. Thank you, Sylvestor.
Give a gift to KPFK and yourself when you let us take your unwanted vehicle off your hands. Not only will your donation help support the on-air programs our community relies on every day, but you even qualify for a tax